Well, welcome to the Aging Boomers. I'm your host, Frank Sampson. Of course, on our show, we discuss so many of the issues facing boomers, their parents, and what we know, of course, is an aging population today. And I want to remind everybody that today's show is sponsored by Senior Care Authority, a professional senior placement and elder care consulting organization that has a national network of advisors to help in determining the right path for senior living and receiving proper care. So whether it's in-home care, assisted living, residential, or memory care, get the necessary advice from a senior care advisor in your area by calling Senior Care Authority at 888-809-1231, or you could go directly to the website at www.seniorcareauthority.com. And I want to just thank everybody again for all their support. Each and every day we're getting more and more listeners. Thanks for sharing it with others. Of course, a lot of you go download our free app on your iPhone, Android phone, or your iPad or anything like that. Just if you haven't done so, you could go on, just type in the Aging Boomers, and you could keep up to date on all our wonderful guests and great information. Of course, many of you gone onto iTunes or iHeartRadio and just registered there, which you can do. Or, of course, we have all the interviews on our site at theagingboomers.com. And I want to thank everybody for all their support. Also on my new book called The Aging Boomers. It's out on Kindle, coming out in hardcover soon. So thank you so much for all your support on that. You could go to Amazon to get that as well. Speaking about books, we got with us today Carolyn Hobbs, who is an author, licensed therapist, lecturer, workshop leader, and college professor who is passionately committed to giving people quick, practical ways to bring freedom and inner peace in their busy lives. We're going to talk about Carolyn's new book, Free Yourself, 10 Life-Changing Powers of Your Wise Heart, in an invitation to wake up free of unconscious ego habits. For busy people of all faiths to find inner peace and way to see the freedom is a real place in your heart. So, Carolyn, thanks for joining us, and welcome back to the Aging Boomers.
Oh, I'm so excited to be back, Frank, and really excited to share this great news and great information with your listeners.
Yeah, it is wonderful information. So tell us kind of, you must have been thinking about this for a while. What was the catalyst or some of the reasons that brought you to write the book?
Well, Frank, I have been a psychotherapist for 35 years, and so I've worked a lot with human pain and couples and individuals, and at the same time I studied meditation and Buddhism and wisdom, and for many years I did meditate, watching my breath and labeling thoughts, thinking. And then as I begin to say an intention in the morning, such as today I'm willing to choose kindness toward my body, towards my heart, towards my spouse, towards the other people, just that one intention in the morning, which takes about 3 seconds to say, really made me more aware and awake during the day of what I was choosing, and whether I was choosing to react or choosing to indulge my anger or my fear. And then I'd remember, oh yes, I'm going to choose kindness today. And so I would do that intention of choosing kindness for a whole month. And then maybe the next month I'd say, today I'm willing to choose awareness, or today I'm willing to choose compassion. And I found that the choosing these heart qualities that we're all born with over a period of time, like at least for a whole month, where you go through the ups and downs and moods of what it is to be a human being in a body, then I realized that this is really powerful. And, of course, we've all heard about intentions, but few of us realize that we're all born with unlimited kindness, unlimited joy, unlimited compassion, and unlimited inner peace. So when we put these together and really start our day with that, it's a very powerful package, very powerful way to move through life.
It sounds like it, and I guess, my question, is that what you mean by conscious choice? I mean, I know in your book, Free Yourself, you describe how the power of conscious choice leads to more joy and happiness. Is that what you're referring here, or is that a little different?
Well, it's a conscious choice is one of the most powerful things that we can do in our daily life. Typically, we like to think of ourselves as conscious beings, and I'm kind, or I'm present, or I'm aware. But the truth is, we have a tremendous habit of resisting what is true. We tend to, if I wake up if my back is hurting, the first reaction of ego is, oh, I don't want it to be hurting. I don't want this. And we don't think consciously, well, I'm going to resist life, but we tend to resist what is true. If it's cloudy, we want it to be sunny. If it's windy, we want it to be less windy. If it's cold, we want it to be warm. We tend to just automatically resist what is true. And when we step into each moment with conscious choice and ask ourselves, how do I choose to respond right now to my teenagers, acting out, or to my husband's heart disease, or to my own body's shoulder tension, or even cancer. How do I choose to respond? When we ask that question, we access this deeper wisdom in our heart that allows us to bring compassion to the moment rather than defensiveness or reactivity.
You mentioned back pain. So this is a question I was going to. I've been waiting to ask you. All right. I'm just speaking of myself. I get back pain once in a while. Unfortunately, I don't get headaches. A lot of people do, and I'm pretty good with that. But my neck pain and all of that, and you talk about that as well as stress symptoms in your book. So talk to me. Tell me how it could help me, and I'm sure there's a lot of others feeling the same way.
Well, definitely, Frank. As we get older, I'm 66 now, and I notice that I, too, have more symptoms, more pain, more shoulder hurting or neck or back. And in Chapter 2 of Free Yourself, I really address how to respond to symptoms differently, and in actuality, how to be friends with our symptoms by asking questions. Simple questions like, what is my back pain trying to tell me right now? Because again, we want to resist the pain. I don't want the pain, and we want to move away from it. But the healing step is to move toward it, to lean into it, and to ask, well, what is this pain trying to tell me right now? What is this body symptom trying to communicate? Because that is how our inner wisdom talks to us, is through pain and symptoms, and says, pay attention here. It says, Frank, take a moment, pay attention to your back pain. See what it's trying to tell you and what you need to change. Because pain comes to the area of the body where we need to change something. For example, like just pause for a moment, just close your eyes, Frank, for a moment, and just tune into the back pain instead of resisting. And take a moment just to say yes inside to the back pain. And then ask the question sincerely, what is this possibly trying to tell me?
So somebody that's listening to this who has gone through back pain or neck pain, etc., and they're going, come on, really? I mean, I could hardly move. I mean, do you talk to us about those that maybe doubt that? Do you feel that your method could actually, relieve it? Maybe not eliminate it. Maybe eliminate it. I don't know. But what do you say? What do you say to those?
It absolutely eliminates it.
Yeah,
I mean, John Kabat-Zinn has done a number of studies on using meditation, and the meditation of focusing directly on pain rather than resisting it. And he has had tremendous success with relieving chronic pain. And I myself, in my practice, if someone comes in, like one man came in with chronic digestive pain. He'd had it for 20 years. And he'd gone to all the Western and alternative, acupuncture and body work, and tried different medications, and nothing worked. And he was very frustrated. And I said, well, let's just have you lie down and close your eyes for a moment and just tune into where the pain is in your belly. So he was desperate. He said, okay, I will. But of course he was skeptical because nothing had worked. And so he tuned into the pain, and he began to breathe into it and ask, what is this about? And he found that he was carrying tremendous pain, actually, from his childhood, where he'd been abused by his older sister. And so as he released first the anger about the abuse, and then the fear of not feeling safe, then the chronic pain disappeared.
Wow.
Yeah, and in another case, a woman came in crying. I'd just been diagnosed with uterine cysts, and I said, well, let's have you close your eyes and just focus in your pelvic area where the cysts are located, and just ask what this is about. And for her, it was an abortion she had had many years ago that she felt bad about, felt guilty, had never really processed the feelings around the abortion. And of course now she was a married woman with 3 children, but she had never processed her grief about having to have that abortion at 16. So when she felt her grief, the uterine cyst disappeared. She went back to the doctor, and he said, I don't know how this happened, but they're gone.
That's amazing. That's great.
Yeah.
Those are
so
great
when
stories.
we begin to make friends with our symptoms, and we begin to have this relationship with our body, where we say, oh, what are you trying to tell me? Then we begin to access this deeper wisdom underneath the resistance.
Yeah. I'll ask you this again before we go off before we end the show, but I'm sure there's people out there going, where do I get this book? So tell us how they get your book.
Well, Free Yourself is available on Amazon.com. They just punch in Amazon.com, Free Yourself.
Okay.
And it's available in print, Kindle, ebook, and audio. Great. And also it's on Audible.com. Or they can go to my website, which is Carolyn Hobbs, CarolynHobbs.com.
Did you do the audio? Did you do the audio, or did you hire somebody to do it? The audio.
Oh, I hired a voice teacher specialist to do it. Yeah, great. It's a really great version of Free Yourself, and that's why I wrote this book, Frank. Is that it's like I had to share this information with people, because most of us treat our bodies like a foreign country. We don't know how to relate to it, and it's frustrating, and we don't know how to get rid of the pain, and this small, simple act of just turning and connecting with what our body's trying to tell us is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, listen, you got real examples of it. So that's wonderful. So in the book, you also talk about something you call power of responsibility. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, so often without realizing it, we can get caught, Frank, in playing victim. Like in our relationship, we can build up a story about how if only my spouse would understand me or listen to my feelings or be more considerate or, whatever the story is in our head, that's actually a victim story where we decide that we're powerless because that person, that spouse has to change or that lover or friend or whoever it is, boss. And so when we begin to point the finger at ourselves, so to speak, and say, well, how am I responsible in this conflict? What is my part in this conflict with my spouse, my boss, my friend, my lover, whatever it might be? What is my part? We begin to take responsibility, and that allows, that actually frees us to make this conscious choice that I spoke about earlier, because if I own the fact that my part in my back pain is that I haven't been listening to it, then as soon as I own that, I can consciously choose to respond different. I can say, well, I'm willing to make friends with my back pain. I'm willing to own my part in my conflict with my spouse. And that changes our whole quality of life. So taking responsibility is a very freeing act. We think, ego thinks, oh, well, I'm not, this isn't my fault, and it's you made this conflict, and you're so defensive, and you never listen, and blah, blah, blah. But when we begin to say, well, my part is that I blamed you, or that I need to be right and make you wrong, as soon as we do that, it's a very freeing thing that then we're free to respond differently.
That's not the male thing to do, though, is it?
The male thing to do is to fix. Let me fix it. Let me fix your feelings. Yeah. But the male thing also is to
might have lost you. Let's call you back here. Oh, we just lost her right in the middle. So let's give her a call back. Okay, I'm going to call Carolyn and finish up our conversation here.
Hello?
We did lose you, so we're back.
Okay.
We're back.
Okay, good.
So we were talking, I brought up the male thing, and you were talking about that, of course.
Yes, the need to fix is what most men, and they get a little discombobulated around feelings, but really, again, the taking responsibility piece is asking a question to access our inner wisdom, such as, well, what is my real practice here? Am I practicing fear? Am I practicing anger? Am I practicing defending and trying to control? And another good question is, what story am I running right now? Because most of the time, Frank, we're running a story in our head, whether we're driving to or from work, or we're cooking a meal, or we're even just waking up in the morning. Usually we start running a story about what's happening to me that shouldn't be happening and how it should be different, and that's all what I call ego story. And so as soon as we label it story and let it go, we drop down into this deeper inner peace that is our true nature.
So talk to us also about, I know in the book you talk about core beliefs, you talk about core feelings. I know there's a difference, but why don't you explain both and kind of the difference between the two and maybe give us some examples? That'd be great.
Okay. Well, in Chapter 3 of Free Yourself, I talk about core beliefs because the whole chapter is about awareness, being more aware of ourselves. Core beliefs, Frank, are often started in childhood when some incident, some trauma, maybe the parents are fighting, or maybe mom and dad got a divorce, or maybe I'm feeling judged or criticized a lot. And so we take on a core belief to try to understand in childhood what's really happening. So I might start to feel misunderstood, or I might feel unlovable or unworthy of love. I might feel that nobody cares about my feelings, or I'm never good enough. And so what happens is these core beliefs go underground, unconscious, and we go about growing up and being teenagers and into our 20s and find somebody to love and get married, start a family. And then as a marriage therapist, I've seen how these core beliefs tend to surface again in our intimate relationships. And we begin trying to prove the belief that I'm misunderstood, or I can't trust anybody, or I'm not good enough. We try to prove that with our actions in our marriage. And so as we identify and we become aware of, here's this core belief underneath all of my thoughts and actions that nobody understands me. So as soon as I identify that, I can change it. I can say, no, I do feel understood. I'm willing to feel understood. I'm willing to help people understand me. As soon as we change that core belief, our experience of life changes. And so it's very important, because the belief is the foundation of how we perceive and relate to life. It's very important to make those conscious. And then in Chapter 4, Frank, I do talk about the 5 core feelings that tend to run our life, because again, a lot of these core feelings are unconscious. So we tend to be frustrated or angry or irritated or upset about something. And when we live on the surface like that, we're more in defensiveness. But when we drop down into the 5 core feelings, which are joy, sadness, hurt, scared, or shame, when we can identify, well, when you said that, I felt hurt. Or when such and such happened, I felt scared. When we begin to really identify at this deeper, vulnerable level, again, we're taking responsibility, and now we're able to ask directly for what I need. When you said that, I felt scared. I need a hug.
Right.
I need reassurance. And so when we're able to ask directly for what I need, then our relationship changes.
Got it. So unfortunately, I only have a couple minutes left, but I wanted to make sure. I know in your final chapters you talk about self-compassion, you talk about inner peace. So give us maybe an example of how you choose inner peace and self-compassion over problems that we're talking about.
Okay. Well, inner peace is part of our core nature. It's part of the wisdom in our heart that we're all born with. And when we can step back from reacting defensively or resisting, when we step back into the inner peace, we can hold all of what's happening in life, in our relationship, in the world, in our daily life. We can hold it all in compassion and understanding. We can be less reactive, less trying to control or less resisting what is true. And as we shift out of defensiveness into compassion, there's tremendous freedom in that, right? Tremendous freedom as we shift more into acceptance and compassion for ourselves as human beings, compassion for others, because all of us as human beings, all of us struggle with fear and judgment and self-doubt and trying to control what we can't control and wanting life to be different than it is. We all struggle with that. So when we realize that frees us to step more into compassion, which I talk about in Chapter 5 and Chapter 10 of Free Yourself.
Well, this has been extremely informative. I'm a big audio listener of books, and even though I've reviewed your book, I look forward to, while I'm in my car, to be listening as well. So, I know Audible is one way you could do it. Why don't you again let our listeners know how they can learn more about you and what you're doing, as well as the book itself?
Okay. Well, Frank, if they look up my website, which is carolynhobbs.com, CarolynHobbs.com. They'll be able to order the book and also, listen to any video and radio interviews and things on the website, and some sample chapters as well. Or they can get either the audio or the print version or Kindle version of Free Yourself on Amazon.com. And also the audio version is also available on Audible, AUDIBLE.com.
Great. Well, Carolyn, thank you so much for joining us, and I know we're going to have you back. There's always good reason to have you back on so many subject matters, and good luck with the book. I don't know if you'll need it, but good luck with the book. It's just
thank you.
Great information, and so thank you again for joining us on the Aging Boomers. Really appreciate it. And
thank you so much, Frank.
You're very welcome, and thank you all for listening in. Again, share our information, the Aging Boomers, with friends, family, and just be safe out there, and we'll talk to you all soon.